In the restless heart of New York City, where the nights hummed with neon lights and the days blurred into endless motion, lived Amelia Grant, a woman who had mastered the art of survival in silence. To the world, she was the successful manager of a boutique hotel in Manhattan, always impeccably dressed, always smiling at guests. But behind her calm eyes lived a story she never dared tell one of a love that had once burned so fiercely it threatened to consume her, and of a betrayal that had cut deeper than any blade. 10 years earlier, when Amelia was just a college student, she had met Adrian Cole, a brilliant but mysterious young man who appeared in her literature class like a character torn from the very books they studied. Someone with sharp eyes, a quick wit, and a smile that could make her forget the noise of the city. And though their romance began quietly, over late-night coffees and walks across Brooklyn Bridge, it grew into something so profound that Amelia believed nothing could ever break it until the night Adrian vanished without a word, leaving behind only a single cryptic text, "Forgive me, one day you'll understand." For 10 years, Amelia carried that wound in silence, refusing to let anyone close enough to reopen it, telling herself she was stronger now, telling herself she had moved on. Yet every night when the city fell asleep, she would stare at the skyline and wonder where Adrian had gone, and why he had left her without an explanation. It was on an ordinary Tuesday evening, just as winter wrapped the streets in frost, that fate decided to shatter Amelia's carefully built walls. Because as she was leaving the hotel lobby, she heard a voice she thought she'd never hear again, soft, familiar, and devastatingly real. "Amelia." She turned, and there he was, Adrian, older, sharper, carrying the weight of years in his face, but unmistakably him. And in that single moment the years collapsed, and the silence she had carried for a decade cracked open. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run, but instead she whispered the only words her lips could form. "Why?" Adrian did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked around as if the city itself had ears. Then he said, "Not here. It's not safe." Words that made no sense, but planted a seed of unease in her chest. And before she could stop herself, she followed him into the night. They ended up in a small cafe tucked away from the chaos of Times Square. And there, with trembling hands wrapped around a cup of untouched coffee, Amelia listened as Adrian unraveled the secret he had buried for 10 years. He had left not because he stopped loving her, but because he had uncovered something dark: his own family's involvement in corruption, laundering money through city businesses, including the very hotel Amelia now worked for. And when he tried to expose them, he received threats, not just against himself, but against her. And leaving had been the only way to protect her, though it had broken him to do so. Amelia's heart twisted as truth clashed with anger. Part of her wanted to believe him. Part of her wanted to scream that he had stolen 10 years of her life. And yet the fire in his eyes told her that his love had never truly left. Still, secrets have consequences. And the very next night, Amelia realized just how dangerous this reunion was when she noticed a black car following her home, its headlights trailing her every step until it vanished into the shadows, leaving her shaken. Adrian appeared again the following day, this time slipping into the hotel lobby like a ghost, and pressed a small USB drive into her hand, whispering, "This is the truth, evidence of everything. But if you open it, your life will never be the same." Torn between fear and the yearning for answers, Amelia held onto the drive like it was both poison and salvation. And as she walked the streets that night, memories flooded back of laughter on subway platforms, of promises whispered under rain-soaked awnings, of a love she thought she had buried. And she realized she was standing at a crossroads between past and future, between anger and forgiveness. Days turned into a blur of danger, whispers, and half-answered questions as Amelia found herself caught between two versions of Adrian, the man who had once been her everything, and the stranger who now carried secrets heavy enough to ruin lives. One evening, as snow began to fall over the city, Adrian pulled her aside near Central Park and confessed what she feared most. "They know I came back, Amelia, and they know you're with me. If you choose to stay, you're part of this now." Her voice shook as she asked, "Then why come back at all?" And his reply was a dagger wrapped in tenderness, "Because I couldn't live another day without you knowing the truth, even if it costs me everything." Those words broke something inside her, and against all logic, she felt the embers of her old love stirring. Not because she had forgiven him yet, but because she saw the same boy she once believed him flawed, reckless, but undeniably hers. The danger escalated quickly. Anonymous notes slid under her door. Strangers watching from across the street, and one night, her apartment was broken into, though nothing was taken except the USB drive. Amelia knew then that her life would never return to normal, and the only person who could keep her safe was the very man who had once broken her. The nights that followed were a storm of emotions, as she and Adrian hid in quiet corners of the city, whispering plans while the neon lights flickered outside, and though fear pressed in on them, the unspoken truth grew heavier. The love they thought time had destroyed was still alive, waiting, demanding to be faced. But betrayal is not healed overnight, and Amelia battled within herself. Every glance at Adrian was a war, between the memory of his absence and the reality of his presence, between the anger she still carried and the undeniable bond that pulled her closer. Then, on one fateful night, it all came to a head. Amelia and Adrian were cornered in the hotel basement by men sent to silence them, and as chaos erupted, Adrian shielded her, fighting with a desperation that was more love than survival. Until finally, with police sirens wailing in the distance, the men fled into the night, breathless, bruised, and trembling. Amelia realized she had nearly lost him again, and in that raw moment, words burst from her lips she had kept caged for years. "If you ever leave me again, don't expect me to survive it." Adrian's eyes glistened, his voice hoarse as he swore, "Never again, Amelia. Never again." The evidence he had gathered finally reached the authorities, leading to the arrest of several powerful figures. And though the city buzzed with headlines of corruption exposed, for Amelia and Adrian the real story was quieter. Heavier, the story of two souls who had been torn apart by secrets, only to find each other again through the ruins. Months later, as spring painted the city in light, Amelia stood on the rooftop of her hotel with Adrian at her side, staring at the skyline that had once symbolized her loneliness, now transformed into a horizon of possibility. And in that moment, she understood that love is not about perfection or certainty. It is about choosing. Again and again, despite the scars, despite the risks. And though their story had been born of betrayal and shaped by danger, it had also been redeemed by the courage to face the truth. And as the city roared below them, Amelia and Adrian held onto the one thing that had survived a decade of silence. The unshakable belief that their love, tested by fire, was still worth saving.